I was a bit surprised that such strong messages are sent through social networks, because this is actually the matter and the case to take a phone and to call your partners all over the world. And
do you think
to
it's
start
rude?
Rude?
Yeah.
Do you still think that this word is existing in our world? I really doubt.
You think it's gone beyond that in terms of the relationship between Russia and the United States? Way beyond that.
You know, I don't think we should mark the words saying this word is rude and this is a polite word, because we have Syria on board. I mean, with all these troubles happening to the people and children, and what we actually want, and I'm 100% sure that American people, British people, French people, I mean common people, they really want peace for this country. Not because we are great fans of Damascus or we're great fans of Syria itself. Not because only of that, but because we saw for many years what happened with refugees and people who are trying to leave their homes and trying to move for Europe, for example. This is not only the problem of Middle East and North Africa. This is also the whole world's problem, not probably the problem of United States of America, because they're not accepting refugees from there,
yes.
not in its quantities.
No, indeed.
I hate to use quantity with the world people, but we are realists, unfortunately. But it's the problem, for example, of Italy. It's a problem of France, Germany, etc., etc. So let us more think about what is going on the ground.
So you think that the Russian role should be more appreciated by the West, and in particular Europe and the European Union?
Appreciation, it's not what we're really focused on.
Well, I use that just because Donald Trump in his latest tweet asked to be thanked. He said, where is the thank you, America, for its role, well, for it defeating ISIS, he said.
I think that he was addressing to his people. Don't you think so? When he was asking for appreciation, I thought that he asked Americans to appreciate what he did to Syria and counter-terrorism. I think actually that people in Iraq is still thanking United States, America for what they were doing and what they done to their country. And so we hope that Syria will have better future. Unfortunately, it's really involved in war, it's really involved in counterterrorism, and we really think that we do not need any sort of appreciation of what we're doing on the ground. What we need cooperation. Similar words, but a little bit different.
Okay, but let's talk about the imminence of a strike. Donald Trump has said it might not happen now, it might not happen soon, but still giving the sense that it is going to happen. Is that the assessment of the Russian Federation, that the United States and its allies will launch some form of military operation pretty soon in Syria? In
2015, President of Russia, during his statement in New York, UN headquarters, asked for world cooperation on Syria on combating terrorism. For these years, I mean, about 3 years passed, our proposal is still on the table, and we actually are looking forward closer cooperation with other countries on Syria. We really want it and we really need it.
But it doesn't seem to be happening. That's the point. The missiles are coming, according to the President of the United States. And may you clarify for us...
So please don't ask me about what U.S. President is doing. Please ask...
I was asking you about the assessment of the Russian Federation.
No, I mean,
and indeed the response. This is very important, the response of the Russian Federation. Should missiles be launched...
Russia should protect its people on the ground, of course.
Russia should protect its people
Absolutely.
On the ground. What about the incoming missiles? We had this from the ambassador to Lebanon, that they would be shot down and the basis from which they come attacked.
I want to stress one more time, and that was the idea of our ambassador in Lebanon as well, that Russia will protect its people on the ground. This is obvious, which is this is the task for each and every country in the world, to protect its citizens on the ground. So our people, our soldiers there, they're not for conquering, I don't know, conquering Syrian people. They are for protecting Syrian people. They came to Syria upon the proposal and invitation of Syrian people. And just you can go to Syria, you can just see with your own eyes how Syrian people really appreciate Russian presence on the ground. So Russia will protect its own people.
So if Russian lives are lost, if Russian blood is spilt, will American blood be spilt?
I really don't want to even think about this because, I just want to remind you and myself and everybody who will watch this interview that we're living in 2018. We have all sorts of communication, including Twitter, and we can resolve all the questions like that just picking up the phone, just sending messages. And I think that this is the case which should be resolved through the communication, but not through force.
Well, I know you don't speak for the president, the presidential office, but you're saying it's not too late for the two presidents to talk to each other.
I just answered this question.
But
in another way.
In other words, yes, I get it. I mean, because I was reading just yesterday that the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, no less, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, saying that it is imperative that these two presidents must meet, that a summit must take place, as he held with President Reagan and President George H.W. Bush, that this is the way to sort it out.
That is his opinion.
Would you endorse that ever so slightly?
I'm a representative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I cannot endorse or not endorse such things. As a person, in my personal capacity, I can say that the only thing I want as a mother, as a wife, just a citizen of my country, and actually a citizen of the world, because I have lots of friends all over the world, all I want is peace. Peace for both, for Syrian people, for others, and especially I want peace for my country. And I need, because I really spent several years in the United States, I have lots of friends and colleagues there. I religiously need good relationship with the United States. I cannot understand why Americans, American politicians, congressmen, some people in administration are still blind to what we're trying to propose them. We're trying to propose cooperation, normal cooperation, on the platform of UN Charter. Is it so difficult to understand that Russia is not for war, but for peace and good cooperation and good relationship with the whole world? Is it so impossible to take this as it is?
You said earlier that Russia holds no candle, doesn't necessarily support all of President Assad's policies or indeed his methods. That's true? That Russia doesn't necessarily support President Assad in his methods
Assad, yes,
or his policies.
Absolutely.
And of course, he, along with the oversight of Russia, apparently gave up all his chemical weapons supplies in 2013. Would you accept that perhaps before that he may well have gassed his own people?
You know, I'm not an advocate for Syria and especially for Mr. Assad. Actually, before chemical disarmament, and before even that, Mr. Assad was the best friend not of Moscow, but of London and Washington. That was Mr. Kerry when he was representing Senate. Yes, he was
Senator Kenny, yes.
When before he was nominated, even before he was nominated as the Secretary of State, he was in a very good and very friendly relationship with Mr. Assad. Mr. Assad spent his life in Great Britain. He was much for the West, but not for Russia. And now you're asking me to advocate Mr. Assad? No, he's not our guy. He's much more your guy. We are in Syria just to stop terrorism and stop spreading ISIL and other terrorist organizations, because we are much closer to Syria when, for example, United States. And we were really focused on this task, not let terrorists to go from Syria and the region to Russia. because we were through this problem for many years in 90s. You can recall Northern Caucasus and Chechnya, and we were through combating terrorism in our country, and we did not want to let them come again.
Okay, so you accept that Assad is not a good guy, you are no advocate for Assad, yet you don't accept that he's capable of using chemical weapons against his own people.
You know, I think that we can meet good guys in the church, but not in policy.
Okay, but this specific attack, which has led us to the situation wherein it's the Russian position that it wasn't an attack, that it has been faked.
Let us be absolutely clear. For that particular case that happened a couple of days ago,
on Saturday,
we are 100% sure that that was a clear provocation. For example, white helmets, we are absolutely sure were involved in this provocation. We have.
How can you prove that?
You know, I can ask you the same question. How can you prove that Assad is involved? But we never for these years were answered this question. Nobody gave us any sort of information to prove that Damascus was involved in the situation. We have our materials on the ground. We just take and we made an analytic monitoring of all the statements which were made by white helmets and all the, for example, terrorist organizations on the ground, and we understood that they are really pretty much together, and they are just what they're doing. It's a quite sort of cooperation.
So sorry, just to be clear here, are you saying that either it wasn't Assad that did the chemical weapons attack, or that there was no chemical weapons attack altogether?
We know for sure that the Syrian government didn't. We absolutely sure, because our experts were on the ground.
Sure of what?
Sure that Syrian government was not involved in any sort of attacks, including chemical weapons.
But was there a chemical weapons attack that could have been carried out by a third party?
But there is a probability of using chemical materials, for example, on the ground. And we have our information that, for example, terrorist and extremist organizations are involved in this, and we have suspicions which are really close to be truth, that white helmets are also involved.
But
what we
coming from the
propose,
Russian military
just
is a sense that there was no chemical weapons attack altogether, and that these scenes were faked, they were acted, that they were put together.
Exactly. And what we need to prove what that was it just a provocation to be shown as a chemical attack, or there were any sort of chemical materials? What we propose is to send the representatives of Organization of Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to the ground, and to make it as quick as possible. Because last time, the previous time, when a similar thing happened, you know that the experts were not on the ground, and what the information they gathered was not from Syria. I mean, they were not taking or gathering it themselves. They just received some sort of information through NGOs. And
but isn't this the opportunity now to let them in, with Russian forces controlling the area? We understand, let in the World Health Organization.
Word by word, what we proposed. And
so when are the World Health Organization going?
We made a statement, and today I said it one more time, that we can propose our facilities and our help and assistance for the experts, international experts, to come to Syria to take the evidence. And we understand that Damascus also can provide such an assistance.
Who are you inviting?
The experts and representatives of International Organization of Prohibition of Chemical Weapons.
OPCW, yes. And the World Health Organization want to come in as well?
They can do it together, but of course the first place is for Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapon, because they should make their expertise first of all. And the same moment when we proposed for experts to come to Syria. The same moment, Washington made statements of using of force. So if the force will be used and the smart missiles will be sent to Syria, how can the experts get any sort of evidence on the ground? This is really impossible.
So you're saying hold off and allow the evidence to come out. But on that issue of missiles, and we must move on, I know, to the Skripals, but on that issue of missiles, I've been talking to former senior military figures in the Russian Federation who are drawing parallels with the situation at the moment in the Russian missile crisis and saying that we are not that far away, they believe, if certain circumstances occur, from a nuclear war.
I just even don't want to talk about this thing. Just don't let me even think about this. You know, I just want to remind you one more time. It's 2018. It's not, you know, the middle of 20th century. We are at the beginning, at the first quarter of 21st century. You know, we're human beings, we can talk. If you and me can talk, why people who are in charge of our security and international peace cannot talk? This is my question.
So this is your message. Is it your message to the West, to the UK, to the United States, saying you're not talking to us?
Our first message, let's be constructive and let's talk about how we can resolve crisis but not increase crisis.
And just lastly on this issue, if it goes wrong, if the strikes occur, if Russians are killed or injured in the strikes...
Just stop.
Just
stop.
Well, this
No.
is a possibility that the world is considering. And just
Please.
on that, and the threat that Russia will retaliate, attack the missiles, attack the bases. Well, the one question is, of the bases from which the missiles come, if they are attacked by Russia, they presumably would also include UK bases, because it looks like that the UK will be part of the coalition.
I'm not asking this question UK or US authorities. It's not a question for Russia. Russia is not behaving aggressively. Russia in Syria is upon the invitation of Syrian people. You know, this is our relationship with Syria. We are not threatening anybody of using force or smart missiles. You know, we are trying to help Syrian people to reconstruct their life. And your question should be addressed to UK and United States.
Onto the Skripals. You must be delighted about the recovery of Yulia Skripal.
Oh yes. The only thing that we actually want to be sure that this is for real. Because for that particular moment, we have just zero information from official London about what is going on with her. Our ambassador in London, Mr. Yakovenko, sent dozens of diplomatic notes to Foreign Office, and he was answered once or twice. One diplomatic note, which he received in response, said that she's better, she's feeling better, and this is it. And nothing more. And this statement, which were attributed to Yulia Skripal, was published on the website of Scotland Yard. It was. We hope that this is her statement, but we do not have any proof that this is her words. And actually, she's not isolated, and especially that she's not isolated from the media, because we have no understanding. Does she have any access to, for example, internet, to news, to TV? According to the statement, it's rather strange. The whole text is rather strange. It's not actually how young girls are communicating with the world these days. According to this statement, what we can feel that probably she's really isolated, and she's really isolated from using internet and other media things. And this is it's strange.
But do you think she's actually been abducted, as the Russian embassy said in London? Abducted?
We have such suspicions. We have such a feeling, yes.
Held against her will?
Probably yes, because you know, the whole issue, it's a mystery. We do not have any sort of official information what happened in Salisbury. how many people were involved in this, I don't know, accident or in this situation, in this crime. We even don't know what that was, where it happened, in the house, on the street, on the bench, in the bar, in the restaurant, in the shopping center. We just have the quotation of British official, British official, which are presenting on the web, in the media, and nothing else. No official information. We want to go step by step and understand what happened that particular day, what chemical materials or weapon was used, how it was used, how many people was using it against Russian citizens.
Well, I'm sure those are. I mean, sure, there's a lot of questions that the British investigating authorities want to know, and that's why there are gaps. There's an investigation going on.
Why they are hiding all these things?
You think they already know?
What happened to the Skripals the very day of the accident? You don't. I'm sorry. How can they accuse Russia without even that basic information? Of course they should know. Of course they should know. I know that Great Britain is full of cameras. I don't know how you call them.
CCTV, closed circuit television cameras. You're right.
Something like that, which is actually a sort of providing security in the country. So where are the materials from these cameras? Why they are so secret that nobody can present them to the audience?
Indeed, all legitimate and valid questions that we've been asking in the media as well. We were told that I've been in Salisbury a lot myself.
What about the cell phone communication? Skripal, his daughter, and other people. What about the house? Now, what we saw in the media, that they want to destroy the house. But this is actually the main evidence in this case, but they want to destroy the house.
But I'm sure in any police investigation, in whatever country, in whatever democracy, the investigation continues and the evidence is being gathered, and they don't tell you about the evidence as they gather it.
Exclude one thing: accusations. Accusations should be made after investigation, but not before. But they were made just the very beginning of this investigation. I'm not sure that investigation has already started, but the accusation, the concrete accusation, precise accusation, were already made. And another thing, the punishment, which already happened. They already punished us, sending back our diplomats. That was punishment. So please tell me how accusation and punishment can be before the investigation, but not after?
Well, I think you know the answer to that, because the agent used was identified as a form of Novichok, which apparently only the Russian Federation has stocks of or has manufactured. You can come back at me in a moment, but then you asked, you know, the substance having not been identified, but you know yourself, we had the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons bringing out its report today, and I heard you say, and I also have only read the summary of it, but it's very clear, and I'll put my glasses on to read it, when it talks about the biomedical samples collected by the OPCW, they confirm the findings of the UK relating to the identity of the toxic chemical that was used in Salisbury, i.e. it was Novichok, and they say it was high purity.
Okay, even if it's Novichok, you know how many countries were developing Novichok? Have you idea about that? More than 20, about 20. We announced our information on several countries. And even when we have no information about this case, we asked all ambassadors, which are accredited in Moscow, to come to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, just to share our information about Novichok, about all the chemical aspects of this case, and to share this information with them. About 20 countries were possibilities to develop this chemical material. Can you understand that? Why Russia? Why they pointed out Russia? Why Russia is always on their mind?
Well, you also pointed out amongst that 20 countries you say could have produced a Novichok type weapon. you include the United Kingdom amongst those countries, don't you?
Why not? Because Porton Down Laboratory is one of the greatest, and the scientists who are working there, they are really well known all over the world. And actually, I know that this is just the part of, not probably a part. It's just an idea, but this is it. This is obvious that Salisbury is too close to Porton Down, not to Moscow.
So is this the Russian theory that it was
no theories at all?
That it was. I mean, to answer your own question there, you put to me, why would this happen? That the UK have done this to push Russia into a corner, to demonize Russia.
The thing is that Boris Johnson accused Russia in providing 29 theories on what happens in Salisbury. Come on, we have no theories at all. All we had and have, we have questions. We have questions to ask, and we asked them, and we received nothing officially from London as answers on our questions. So we have no theories at all. What we understand that is a provocation, because something happened, and in this something, Russia was accused. That is a classical provocation. This is one thing, and another thing that London, and for us it's also obvious, is faking so much so-called news and materials based on sources, and trying to present so many theories that for us it's obvious a propaganda thing.
But you know what some people would say is that your ability to identify fake news and sourcing misinformation, your ability to identify that is because Russia has been doing it for so long itself and is very good at it.
Can you show me one example?
I'm not carrying examples of it. I'm saying people say this.
People should not say something without evidence. You know, the thing is that, Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, they are from England. And I was, in my childhood, I was reading all these stories and all these books with great pleasure. And I think that lots of British people are really in love with this literature. What is the big difference between the literature and how it's described step by step, the investigation, and what is going on now in Great Britain, when every and each representative of official governmental structure is giving very contradiction and contradictive information?
Well, we could quote Agatha Christie and Conan Doyle at each other for a long time, including the Conan Doyle line that if you discount all the other possibilities and the one you're left with, however improbable, is the only one, then that is the answer.
I just want to quote Dostoevsky, who was quoted by Boris Johnson. So Dostoevsky, in one of his greatest book, he used English proverb. Let me quote it. From 100 rabbits you cannot make a horse, and 100 suspicions don't make a proof. I think this is the words to describe the whole situation. We actually can talk, we can be suspicious, we can accuse each other, but what we really want and what Russia proposed is to start joint investigation, or to let our expert to come to Great Britain to be involved in this investigation, or to somehow provide us with materials about this case. And we refused, and we don't know why. Probably because this case is so much politicized.
Well, there are some in the British political world who perhaps more towards your view on questions to be asked. And I'm thinking of the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, who may in the next election become Prime Minister. Is his take on this the idea that there more questions need to be asked, and indeed when it comes to Syria, that no action should take place without a debate in the House of Commons?
I don't think that he's advocating Russia. I think that he's much more about
he's
more
questioning.
pragmatic.
He's just questioning.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
very pragmatic, and he is asking questions which Russia is asking, and journalists and the media are asking, because actually we want to know what happened and why we're refused of providing us this information. So all he is talking about is just a pragmatic thing. Because if you are accusing a whole state in doing such things, you should give any sort, of playing cards. You should put some cards on the table. What do you have? Or you just have a poker face.
Okay, and lastly, back to the individuals, the main individuals involved in this, the Skripals. Is it your hope, and one hopes that Yulia Skripal will watch this interview, is it your hope that Yulia Skripal will return to the motherland, will return to Russia to live when she's better?
It's up to her to decide. No, this is absolutely up to her to decide. This is her decision where to live. Before that, before this situation, she used to live in Russia, and she was visiting her father. As I never met her, I have no idea about Yulia Skripal before something happened in Salisbury. But as I understand that it was rather okay for her to live in Russia and to visit her father. But it's absolutely up to any Russian citizen where to live, what place to live, and what place to choose for living. It's according to our constitution, so nobody can tell me or somebody else where should we live. We can use any place on the planet to live and still be a Russian citizen, which is a very smart thing, actually. All I hope, and of course I want to wish Yulia Skripal all the health, and I hope that one day we know the truth, because we in Russia need to know the truth, because we were accused. Each and every person in Russia want to know truth. This is, this is something which actually, I received so many letters through emails, through fax, even just ordinary, just traditional letters. I received so many of them, just saying, it's unbelievable why they're accusing us in what we were not doing, and without any sort of evidence, showing nothing. It just common Russian people are sending letters saying, why? Tell them to provide us any sort of materials. We want to know. It's so unfair, etc., etc.
And just lastly, you wished Yulia Skripal the best of health. Presumably that doesn't apply to Sergei Skripal.
It's a tricky thing.
Well, he's a traitor, isn't he?
Now, he was, but he was already accused in these things, and he was put in jail. And he's not actually, according to the law, he's not a prisoner. He's just an ordinary person. It's a very tricky thing when you ask me, can you wish, for example, Skripal family health? And of course, I do, and I want. But another thing, I want to really know what is going on with them, what is happening to them right now, and what happened to them a month ago. Because probably, we really still don't have this information. Probably they are good, and they were good. We understand that it's a huge provocation which were organized or used by London. We still don't have information or any sort of evidence to say that was done by London on purpose. No, but we obviously see that London is using this provocation in their interest, and this is very bad. It's very bad not only for Russia, but for the whole world, because each and every country is watching how London is trying to manipulate the people's opinion.
I noticed in your press briefing that more of it was spent discussing the Skripal case. Is this because, am I wrong here, is this because the expulsions have affected Russia, the sanctions, the new sanctions are hurting Russia? We've seen the ruble fall, we've seen big Russian companies crashing on stock markets. Are they hurting?
Come on. Let's be honest. All these sanctions happens not because of Skripals, just because of anti-Russian campaign which is going on for years against Russia. Why we spend so many time discussing Skripal case? Because it's a huge mystery, and nobody in the world can understand what is going on. And we know we were accused in a very dangerous things, in a very bad things. And first of all, we want to know the truth. Secondly, we just want to say that it's a huge provocation. And the third thing, we hope that someday the truth will appear.
Maria Vladimir,
Probably with your help, I don't know.
Maria Vladimirovna, we appreciate you giving us so much time. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.